Hello there, welcome to MYCAS YouTube channel. Today we have a distinguished guest, Dr. Vidyashree, who is a PhD from the University of Mysore. There are 2-3 things that fascinated us about her, and we decided to have her as the guest. First one is she's still much below 30 years of age and already a PhD. Teaches in one of the prominent MBA colleges in the state. And she has been an academically bright student. And her research topic is very interesting. She has done her research on lean, green and sustainable development related to the practices in the iron industry, steel industry of the country. So these things made us to invite her as a guest, and let's engage in a conversation with her and try to know more about the PhD program and her journey. Hello, Dr. V. Vidyashree. Welcome to the podcast series powered by MYCAS College, The Tea That Matters.
Thank you, sir. My pleasure to be here.
Your basic degree is in engineering.
Yes.
Then you took up management studies.
Correct.
And later you started building your career in academics.
That's right.
How has been this transition?
Actually, while I was pursuing my engineering, towards the end of it, I had to do an internship. During the course of internship, I discovered that there were a lot of skills from a managerial aspect that I didn't understand, which pushed me towards MBA. And while pursuing MBA, as we all have friends, we taught each other. And during that transition, I discovered that teaching can be something that I can try out. So that's how I started into this field.
Okay. Then you took up your PhD.
Yes.
And not many of them take up PhD soon after their masters, and a lot of us don't complete PhD well within 30 years of age. How was this possible?
Well, I can say that this possibility was only due to my parents. They have always encouraged me to finish my education as soon as possible, and one of the primary reasons is that while my mother was pursuing her PhD, I was in my high school. I saw the familial difficulties that she had to manage her responsibilities along with her professional commitments. So when I sat with my parents and I told my interest of pursuing PhD, they encouraged me to finish it and try to put in all of my efforts in the beginning itself. Also, if we complete PhD, professionally there are much more opportunities that we can gain. So that's how I decided, I started, and of course with the support and the push of my guide, Dr. Aisha M. Sharif, who had been very kind to give me the PhD opportunity, as well as my parents, I could complete it.
Ma'am, I would be interested to know this. Once you decided that you want to pursue PhD,
Yes.
what is the preparation that you did even before you approached professors to guide you through your PhD program?
First and foremost, I went into the understanding of what is the field in which I wanted to do my PhD. Once I decided that supply chain management, which was also my specialization in MBA, is something that I wanted to take, then I tried to narrow it down to a few topics that I liked. And through those topics, I felt that there was an opportunity for me to be able to contribute something to the society. And then, of course, on the other end of it was the search for the universities. I looked into many private as well as governmental universities which was offering PhD program and the eligibilities required for that. Since I had already gained my UGC net, I had a little bit of an ease in terms of getting my PhD seat. So I had approached a few guides, and fortunately I was able to get in the University of Mysore under my guide. So she was considerate enough for me to be able to narrow down further topics and understand what is it that I can be inclined towards. So we spoke in length about how I will be able to make an impact and where is it that my interest lies. We tried to have a discussion multiple times, and then we understood that lean and green is something that I have an interest as well as a basic foundational knowledge in, and that's where it started with.
So do you mean to say that even before somebody approaches a professor to guide them,
Yes.
it is important for them to identify the area where they want to be doing their work and do a lot of reading, gain knowledge, and then go to a professor? Would that help?
Yes, of course. First and foremost, to pursue research, I think the first thing that they need to do is prepare themselves for the journey of it. Many people think that when they pursue PhD, they'll be guided all throughout it. But the reality of it is that unless and until we have a vision into the field, the topic that we would like to take in, the guide wouldn't be able to add much to it. So obviously, it matters a lot to understand the area, the field, and then at least a vague topic, and also to recognize universities, how the programs work, what durations they will be, and what is the kind of procedures that take place. So once we have that understanding, of course, all of the universities will have entrance tests. So qualification to that is also very essential. So preparation towards that is also something that needs to be done. Understanding basic research methodology subject as well as some basic knowledge about the field is necessary. And once you get in and a guide is being assigned to you, sitting with the guide and talking in breadth about the subject matter is essential, because the guide will be only able to help you only when you have narrowed down it.
Right. You have completed your degree from a foreign university.
Yes.
But until 12th, you studied in India.
Yes.
So your undergraduation was in a foreign land.
Yes.
How has that helped you, or has it helped you to shape your thoughts and vision?
Yes, it did. In fact, it was very beneficial for me to have studied outside of the country, because as an individual with a personal and a professional growth, it has certainly shaped the way in which I think and understand a lot of things around me. Growing up in India gives us a lot of advantage. At the same time, it doesn't give us as much as exposure as the foreign country does. It's not just the foreign country, it's also the cultures that are there, how to be open about a certain thing. And sometimes it so happens in our society that we have a set path for us. And when we go outside of those boundaries, we are able to understand a lot more when we are, outside. The culture, the religion, the way in which the country works, the policies, rules, everything differs. And in a country that I studied, Saudi Arabia, it is a country with a lot of discipline, and I was very fortunate to have studied in my university where all of the professors were handpicked from their own country. So it's not only that I was exposed to the Middle Eastern culture, but to the entire globe through my faculties and the community that we lived in. It helped me to grow individually as a person, as well as it helped me as a professional to understand that if I like something, what are the different opportunities available to it and how to be able to pursue them.
Great. So your PhD is on lean and green practices.
Yes.
Can we assume that somewhere a foundation was laid when you were doing your engineering in Saudi Arabia?
Of course it did, because as we know, Saudi Arabia has a different geographical mapping where we see that it is not a valley or a hill. Right here, it is a desert area. There are no plants that are growing. So there is a lot of programs which are conducted on how to maintain our environment, on how to be conscious about the environment around us. So that was one thing that started it off. At the same time, of course, in India, while growing up on June 5th, we have always celebrated year on year how to celebrate the planet that we are living in, as well as how we are able to take care of them. At the same time, while I was growing up, both of my parents were in different careers, and it was lucky of me to have seen academics and the industry together. And there were a lot of manufacturing plants that I went into with my father, and I saw a lot of production happening and different kinds of industries taking up CSR initiatives. So something in my childhood helped me understand that sustainability is something that all of us need to concentrate through any kind of work that we do. For me, it was my PhD. For others, it may be the work in itself that they pursue.
We often hear that, be it Middle Eastern countries or the Western countries for that matter, they are giving a lot of importance towards green, lean practices and sustainable development.
Definitely.
But that kind of importance or prominence is not given in Indian scenario. Is it true?
Not exactly. When we consider the practices of sustainability, lean and green, definitely the implementation of all of those policies are not at the 100%. When we look at private organizations, they have got the financial support to have implemented all that. When we talk about sustainability, one thing that very rationally and realistically we need to consider that it takes up a lot of upfront investment. It is not something that gives you cost reduction immediately, profit maximization immediately. It's a long-term gain. So that's the reason why certain laws and policies which also do exist in our country are not completely implemented due to different lack of opportunities of, maybe the corruption factor that may exist in our country. Also with regards to the strict applications of the rules that we have, which is not present.
How does adopting sustainable practices help an industry?
Definitely, when we look into a company, there are three things every company wants to concentrate upon: profit maximization, cost minimization, and sales maximization. Whether we take a manufacturing company or a service organization, more or less it stays the same. So when we talk about sustainability, we definitely go into the principles of recycling, reusing, remanufacturing, and sometimes business reengineering also, which definitely helps on the baseline of the company. It helps us into recycling of the raw materials. Sometimes it may also be the procedure and the process may have been very complicated. It may get simplified. Over-processing may reduce, overproduction may reduce, and usage of lean and green will help reduce different types of wastages, whether it is motion wastage, transportation wastage. If implemented well and understood well, it can definitely help with the baseline of the company as well as with regards to the business objectives.
All these ideas about sustainability and green and lean practices in management, did you gain when you were doing your engineering, when you were living in Saudi Arabia, or when you were interacting with your parents who come from academia and industry? Or did you gain all this knowledge when you did your literature review, when you took up your PhD? When did all this actually happen?
Well, I feel that it's all of the above. It started out as a thought to understand what are the things that I have to learn. In engineering, we all have subjects to understand manufacturing processes as well as procedures and what are the things that are included in a supply chain, whether it is in goods inward as a raw material to the outward of packaging, logistics, all of this. So conceptually, I did understand what these fundamental principles were. But my detailed literature review helped me understand the actual implementation of that, because only when we study in our textbooks, we learn only the concept, the theory part of it. The real life applications of it and the impact of it, yes, I understood only during my initial literature review and then through my further data collection time.
For a layman to understand lean, green and sustainability, could you please help?
Yes. So if we do not consider a company just as a human being, when we are at our home, we would like to organize everything and keep it. There has to be a fixed place for everyone, for every item that we have in our home, as well as we also need to maintain it very well. At the same time, we also need to ensure that some things which are not working, maybe it's a mixie grinder, whatever, we need to repair it and maintain it. So the same principles are applied in the industry also. We try to get new machinery which may be able to do multiple works at a time. They are known as flexible manufacturing systems. We try to maintain them. We try to do servicing frequently so that they are working for a longer duration. We also assign them a fixed place in every location, whether it is in a manufacturing process, then we give them in-house stores. If it is in terms of the process, then the steps have to be detailed. So we are trying to make organization and arrangements. So this will help us to keep it sorted. So every item has a place, every machinery has a process to go for, and optimization is something that has to be achieved through all of this.
So far what we have understood is you did your engineering,
yes,
then you shifted to management, then you decided to pursue your PhD.
yes,
You had a vague idea that if you do some research, it will be related to green and lean practices.
yes.
So with this background, you started approaching universities and professors and went and told them that you want to pursue your PhD in lean, green and sustainable development. So from this point onwards, where does the PhD journey go towards?
Definitely when you have an understanding on the field that you want to pursue with, as well as what kind of guidance you require. My guide specifically was very considerate with regards to the topic that I want to pursue. It's not very traditional to have pursued something in the production side or the engineering side of management. So my guide helped me to change that with regards to how it can be inculcated into management science. Thus, first and foremost, when we are done with the narrowing down of the topic, the university, the qualification, the coursework also, it is very important to have a guide first who understands what is the vision that you want to achieve. And with that, to have an understanding of how will it impact at the end, what is it that I would like to convey, whether it is the impact factor, the influence factor, or what are the things that can be implemented in new technologies. Different researchers have different scope. So to understand what is the scope of the study and how to limit them is something that the PhD should concentrate upon.
So you mean to say the interaction and the relationship between the research scholar and the guide is extremely important.
Yes.
One, in narrowing down the area of research. Two, setting a clear path.
Yes.
Three, in making sure that the work that the scholar does is impactful.
Whenever we are pursuing our PhD, it is definitely important for the guide as well as the research scholar to have a common understanding on what is being worked upon. Also, frequent interactions with the guide will help in order to finesse the topic that you are pursuing and how and when that the destination can be reached. As you specified previously that I finished it within 4 years. It's also possible when we have that initial few meetings where the guide and the research scholar sits down and talks about what are you going to do in the next 1 year. How are you going to complete the coursework journey? How are you going to complete the data collection journey? And definitely things that are not always spoken about is also the data collection part of it. So definitely not only just the university, the guide is very pivotal to the data collection journey. They will be definitely able to tell how to frame the questionnaire, what is the perspective in which it can be asked, and how the data can be collected. And then the next journey, which is I think is the most important, is the analysis of the data that has been conducted. So here the analysis is something that needs a lot of statistical knowledge into. So definitely there are a lot of people who take a lot of time into it. So I feel that when you are selecting a certain topic, you also need to understand what is the common outcome or the goal towards it, and to get that outcome, what are the types of statistical tools that you need to utilize, and getting knowledge to that is very important. There are many tools available, SPSS, AMOS, at least a few statistical methodologies, and one tool should be taken up by each of the research scholar in order to do their own analysis. That helps. Also, the guide would be definitely helpful because they do come from years of experience. So they would be able to give a direction towards what is exactly that can be done into the study.
So which are the, if you have to divide the PhD course into different stages, which are those stages?
So I will call it as preparation stage, where you prepare for the entrance test. You kind of get a vague idea into what is it that you want to pursue. The second stage will be the examination, the qualification, right? So once you qualify, whether it is UGC NET, KCET or different kinds of entrance tests for private universities, you need to get into that. The third stage would be the coursework stage, where you learn a few subjects which are in common, like research methodology, literature review, and certain subject related courses. If it is into finance, then financial management subjects. If it's into supply chain, so on. And then comes the stage of finalization of the topic, which is, I feel, very important. Once you finalize your topic, the path becomes clear. I don't say it gets easier, it becomes more clear. You will be able to understand what is the next step easily. So topic finalization is the next stage. After that comes the questionnaire development stage, where it is followed by the literature review. So both of them go hand in hand, literature review and questionnaire preparation. Once that is done, data collection, and then comes the data analysis stage, interpretation, and the final one is report writing.
So you mean to say in all these stages, the research guide plays a very important role?
Definitely.
Be it finalizing your topic or helping you clear the coursework, then do the literature review, then the questionnaire development, data analysis. Is there a stage where you can tell guide is not required?
I don't think so. Probably guide is not required only at the stage when you have not been assigned one.
Okay.
So I feel like yes, guide is pivotal from the word go. So I think that qualification to pursue PhD is a stage where it is on self. I won't say guide is not required. I will say that it is something that you have to do to be able to get a guide.
Okay. Now, if I may ask you for 3 findings of your research work, what would be the top 3 findings?
I have found that lean and green practices are implemented in the organizations, but the level of implementation differs from company to company, and also have made a classification with the private as well as the public companies. So when we look at steel organizations, they're almost all large scale in nature. So there is a lot of procedures that are involved, and I have found this gap that from department to department, it takes a lot of time for the procedures to get approved, due to which the total production time becomes increased. The second thing that I have found is implementation has to be done. The company knows it, there is a regulation to it, but the implementation is not so much done because there is not much of a restriction on every stage quality check being done. So due to which lean and green policies are taken only when there is a baseline to them. That is, if they are definitely helping directly in short term the profit gain, only then they are going to be taken. Otherwise, there is not much of implementation. Whereas when we look at public versus private companies, I can see that the private companies have a much more better level of implementation because they are catering to a global market. The public companies are also implementing, but the stage of implementation is very less.
Have you had the opportunity to discuss these findings outside academia to the industry representatives?
Yes, there were 2 or 3 companies during my data collection stage who had asked me that if we provide the data, would we be getting a copy of the report or a presentation? So definitely there are a few companies which I cannot name, but there are the companies who would have wanted that I have given my detailed analysis to them, and on basis of that, the things that they were not able to implement and what are the benefits of the implementation, they have definitely come to know. So again, it's upon the companies whether to take up those suggestions and the findings.
How positive were they when you as a researcher went and presented your findings to them? How was their response?
They were actually very happy about it because all of the companies spend a lot of money into researching their market position and what they can do best. Obviously, every company wants to gain a competitive advantage. So if they do find out that there are a few companies which are not implementing something and their company is, they'll try to strengthen that quality or that procedure. At the same time, if there is an opportunity for them, then they would definitely want to implement. So I have got a generally positive feedback on the research that has been conducted, and they were very happy to receive the report.
Going back to the research process, yes, from preparation to literature review to questionnaire development, data collection, analysis and presentations and all that, which stage was the most challenging stage to you personally?
I can name 2. First one was my topic finalization, because that's when I get clarity on what is exactly that I'm going to do. It's not too much of an effort when you've got the correct guide. And the second stage is when we have to do our data collection, because we do glorify PhD and we tell that yes, research is something that everybody should pursue, it's for everyone. But the ground level reality is that not a lot of data can be collected, because there will be a lot of rules, regulation, confidentiality factors, and some people just don't give the data. And sometimes it also happens that they end up getting the wrong information. So I feel that I had faced a lot of difficulties to understand which data is correct in nature, who is the expert, and to have them give us the data is also a challenge. To take those appointments, to approach them, to be able to ask them, please sit down and tell me, explain to me what it is. Because as a researcher, you cannot explain to them, you rather would like to hear from them, because every company's experiences and exposure will be different, which is very difficult to capture. In my case, it was companies. I have heard that many researchers have found problems even with individual respondents. Sometimes it so happens that they see about 15-20 questions and they do not end up answering them, or sometimes the answers are almost at random. So I feel that every researcher at one point would have thought and faced this problem, that data collection is something that is very pivotal and most difficult part.
We often hear researchers telling this, that at different points they would have felt that they should exit the course. Have you also gone through this, and have you ever felt that you should stop researching?
Fortunately, no, because both of my guide and my parents wouldn't let me. At the same time, I had seen this journey previously as well through my mother's eyes. So I have seen that there are a lot of difficulties. I came into the journey of PhD with the knowledge that it's not going to be a cakewalk. So there was not an exact point that I would have had to quit, or I would have quit. But I feel like, yes, it was a lot of difficulty going through it, because doing the PhD journey is not easy. It takes years of effort, and when you are not a full-time scholar, it also is mingling with your professional life. That is, I have to do teaching, I have familiar responsibilities. In addition to this, it sometimes feels like a lot of work. Every day struggle for years together, it kind of changes you.
So you have been into teaching even before you took up research.
Yes.
Now, after writing research papers, then completing your theses and earning your PhD, how has all this influenced your classroom teaching?
It definitely has enhanced it, I can say, because my capability to find more information, trying to make the class more informative, has been more successful. I can say my research capability helps me to find up different thoughtful ideas to deliver the concepts efficiently.
A lot of youngsters today, when I talk to youngsters, they don't prefer getting into academics. They have their own reservations. They have their own apprehensions rather. What prompted you to be a teacher?
I think it's more so about the passion part of it, and something that I enjoy. I always feel like whichever profession we choose, it should always help us to feel happy and more fulfilled in nature. So every time I get into a class, I find a lot of students asking me questions. In fact, it's one of the most enriching aspects of my classroom teaching, where whenever I get into a classroom, when I teach, when they ask me a lot of questions, I feel like, okay, this is a perspective and this is a point of view that I could have considered, or this is a way in which it can be portrayed. And through classroom activities, I also discover innovative new ways in which the upcoming generations would be able to connect to the concepts.
If I ask you to give some advice to people who are thinking of becoming teachers or researchers, what would that advice be?
I think first and foremost, we should not just rely on the idea that as soon as we step into a classroom, they would all be in awe of us. So the idea of it being a profession where you gain respect, but not the financial part of it, should be broken. If you take the right steps, definitely in academics too, there is a lot of progress that you can make. And as an individual, I feel if there is an opportunity for somebody to enhance the minds of young people, and if they have an interest in invoking talents into other people, then that's something that can be taken up into the teaching profession.
What are your personal aspirations, both academically and in your profession?
I think that going forward, I would like to be more involved into the research part of it, to be able to learn new concepts and connect them to the ones which are already as a foundation to us, as well as to be able to connect to the upcoming generations and give them a strong conceptual theoretical foundation along with some real life experiences. So that's something that I think I look forward to.
What fascinates you the most when it comes to research? I often don't hear people telling after completing their PhD, people still telling that they would want to pursue research.
Yes.
A very small percentage of them actually continue to do research. Most of them stop.
Yes.
What inspires you?
I feel like it's the emotion towards finding something new or to be able to bring something that you have created to the world. Research is something that I feel not a lot of people enjoy because the way it has been taught to them. It's seen as a struggle, it's seen as something that's a compulsion. But I feel that research is for everybody. If we like to find out new things, why is the sky blue? And I definitely think that there's a research inside you which can be developed. So the way in which we look at research has to be changed. And what inspires me is the way in which my guide, my parents have looked at research from the beginning. I have seen my guide as well as my mother, who is into the same profession, looking at research as an opportunity to contribute. And I think I am going to follow their footsteps.
The name of the podcast series is The Tea That Matters.
Yes.
If you get an opportunity to choose a person, maybe from the past or in the present, with whom you would like to have evening tea, who would that be and why would that be?
I think from the time I was in school, there was a guest that came to my school. He was none other than my former president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. He was an inspiration. He had come to inaugurate a science exhibition in our school. And the way he spoke to us, during that time I might have been in 3rd to 4th standard, and the exhibition that he inaugurated was for the students of 11th and 12th. The way he communicated easily with both of the batches of students and the way he communicated was something awe-striking and inspiring. So I always had looked at his profile and his journey as an inspiration. He stood on the stage and the entire crowd was just waiting to gain knowledge, to be involved into the world that he brought us into. And of course, he is known as the missile man. He has given so much contribution to our country. He is into nation building. He's somebody who inspires us not to be heroes of the cinemas, but to be an actual hero. So I think that if I'd had an opportunity to have a small conversation with an evening tea, that would have been very, very opportune of me.
It was wonderful talking to you, Dr. Vidyashree. We wish that all your dreams and aspirations come true and you come out with some groundbreaking research and add a lot more to the stock of knowledge that's already available. Thank you so much for being our guest.
Thank you, sir. It was a wonderful opportunity to be here today and to be interviewed by you. I thank all of you who have been part of my journey, to you, sir, who has given me this opportunity, to my guide, who has provided me the stage to be a doctorate, and to my parents who have always been my support. Thank you.